If you ask the majority of Nebraska fans, they are very optimistic about this upcoming season for the Huskers, and for good reason. Dylan Raiola is ready to break out to become one of the best quarterbacks in the country. This entire roster is very much improved. The coaching staff is phenomenal and so much more. But with that being said, despite a lot of fans predicting 8, 9, 10 plus wins at college football playoff berth, there still are a bunch of fans who are very negative, who are expecting to just barely make a bowl game, if not worse. So in today's video, we're going to address both sides of the spectrum. If everything goes right for Nebraska, what is the best case scenario? Could we make the college football playoff? Could we even do more than that, potentially a national championship game? Once again, if everything goes right, is that even a possibility? And then on the other side of the spectrum, what if everything goes wrong? What is that record going to look like? Will we even make a bowl game? What needs to happen in order for us to fail? What are the implications? Could Matt Rhule be fired? And everything else you need to know. So really quick, this video is going to be full of hot takes and predictions. Hit that like button if you're fired. If you're excited about football almost being back, hit that like button. And also if you're a diehard Nebraska fan and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Now is the time for daily content talking Huskers. It's a no-brainer. It takes 2 seconds. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it. With my best in worst case scenarios for Nebraska this year on both sides of the spectrum. If everything goes right, where do we stack up against the rest? Could we potentially make a run in the playoffs? Could we even make the playoffs? And then worst case scenario, are we even going to make a bowl game? What does that mean for Matt Rhule? So I want to make this very clear to start this video. All of these are realistic outcomes, right? I'm not going to say we're going to go 12-0, and I'm also not going to say we're going to go 0-12. These are the best and worst case scenarios, meaning that they could very well happen. Are they likely? Maybe not. But again, they are definitely a possibility. So let's get things started with the worst case scenario for Nebraska. If everything goes wrong, what's the record going to look like? Why is this happening? And what does that mean for Matt Rhule? So let's get things started with the things that need to happen in order for it to be a worst case scenario. Then I'll go over the record prediction and the implications from there. So the first thing in order for Nebraska to have the worst season imaginable in 2025 would be Dylan Raiola does not break out. If anything, he regresses. Now, we know that this offense is pretty much going to be in his hands this year. We know that it's going to be more of a pass-first offense. That Dylan Raiola, they're expecting him to take a huge jump forward, but if he doesn't, if he throws around 11 interceptions like he did last year, continues to struggle reading Big Ten defenses, the mobility isn't better, the accuracy isn't better, I could very well see this offense sputter in a big way. And honestly, maybe he could get worse. You never know with Dylan Raiola. Obviously, I have a lot of high expectations for him, but there is still a big if there because if he did underperform a lot throughout his true freshman year. So Nebraska, we're relying on him to break out this year. A lot of people expect that, but what if he doesn't? What if he's the same player he was from last year, if not worse? He still has some issues with his confidence, obviously throwing interceptions that'll lose you a bunch of football games. That's one of the things that could really kill Nebraska's season, especially in these close football games. So that's the first thing. In order for Nebraska to have the worst year possible, Dylan Raiola just won't live up to the hype. Second thing, the special teams errors continue, right? And Mike Eckler, I have a good feeling he's going to change a lot of these kick returns, punt returns, going down actually, having a good long snap, going down and tackling the opposing return man. Like, that's all going to be fine. The big problem in my eyes is once again the punter and the kicker battle, right? We don't feel good about either position, right? Kicker, you have 3 guys who are going to be battling that throughout fall camp. You got Kyle Cannon, you got Tristan Ovano, you got John Hull, but none of those guys are great. They're just all decent options. And then you got Archie Wilson, who's a complete wild card. So, if these special teams continue to struggle, we can't, punt over 45 yards. We can't flip the field. If we can't make a basic field goal, once again, that contributes to losing a lot of these close games. So that's another thing that could lead to a worst case scenario for Nebraska. Third thing is that Nebraska continues to lose the battle of the trenches. We replace a lot on this D-line. It's a huge question mark. I think it's actually going to live above expectation. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, but there could be a scenario where Cameron Lenhart is the same as last year. He's on a milk carton all year long. Riley Van Poppel's not the player we thought he was going to be. Williams Nwaneri continues to be a 5-star bust, as people like to call him, right? Keona Davis does not turn out to be an endowment consuit. There are just a lot of variables, and same deal with the offensive line. While you feel good about the interior, who says that Elijah Pritchett's the guy that he was at high school, or the guy that a lot of people are projecting him to be, first round NFL draft pick still? Like, I just don't know if that's going to happen. So Nebraska continues to lose the battle of the trenches. Number 4, we get injured, right? I mean, you just never know what the injury bug is going to look like. If Dylan goes down, it's a very real possibility. Nebraska, they've had poor luck when it comes to quarterbacks getting injured. Okay, that could happen. The running back core could get injured. If Emmett Johns goes down, that's a huge problem. If the offensive line gets banged up, that's a huge problem. So, again, injury bug. And last but not least, once again, if you just can't win close games, it's plagued Nebraska the last couple of years. Matt Rhule has a bad tendency to do 2 things. Number 1, He can't win close games. And number two, he goes on big losing streaks. We lost 5 of our last 6 to end the year last year. People always forget about that. He lost 4 consecutive games at the end of 2023 to not make a bowl game. So he has a track record of going on losing streaks and losing close games. Can that change this year? Because I'll tell you that if Nebraska has the worst case scenario, they're going to go on once again another losing streak and not have a very successful year. So that all of those things need to happen in order for Nebraska to have the worst possible scenario. Now, what is that record going to look like in my eyes? Now, of course, we go over to our schedule. It's objectively very easy. I would say a worst case scenario for Nebraska is 5-7. Now, you have a win versus Akron. You have a win versus Houston Christian. Those are guaranteed. Those are some of the worst teams in America. I think they're going to beat Northwestern. Northwestern's not going to be very good. I believe they're going to beat Michigan State at home. Right, and I think UCLA is another one you could pencil down as a W over there in Pasadena. After that, I could see very well in a worst case scenario getting shocked against Cincinnati week 1, right? Nebraska, they've not fared well in week 1 games the last couple years against Power 4 opponents. They lost to Northwestern back in the day. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to Ohio State. They lost to Illinois. So, I mean, they've not done very well against Power 4 openers. Let's see if that happens again. They could lose that game in a worst case scenario. Michigan, Maryland could be a trap game on the road. Minnesota, same deal on a Friday night. You got USC. It's going to be a tough game. Penn State, obviously, and then losing to Iowa. So I could very well see that happen. I know some Nebraska fans are going to say, "Well, Wilson, I think the floor is at least 6 wins." I just think that's crazy because Nebraska, we barely made a bowl game last year. We lost 5 of our last 6. There is a real possibility where Nebraska has to make a bowl game this year. I know it's definitely not likely, but it is a reality. Okay, Nebraska's just not good enough yet to just guarantee, have 100% confidence that we're going to make a bowl game. Like you're telling me that it's 100% certain Nebraska's going to make a bowl game. I just don't think that's the reality right now. So listen, 5-7 is the floor. Will it happen? Probably not, but that's where I'm going to put the floor at for Nebraska. All right. We got that out of the way. Let's go to the best case scenario for the Huskers. If everything goes right, this is going to be a lot more optimistic. What needs to happen and what is the record going to look like? So, talking about the things that need to happen, then we'll go to the record, then the playoffs and all that. Number one, I think the trenches need to dominate. That's the first thing I'm looking at. Like, I need this offensive line to take a step forward. I need a guy like Elijah Pritchett to be the guy he was coming out of high school. I need Teddy Nebraska to stay healthy for the first time in his life and be our right tackle starter. I need the defensive line to break out. A guy like Williams Neri to break out. A guy like Cameron Lenhard to get off the milk carton, right? The trenches need to finally dominate and continue to take a huge step forward. That's the first thing. It's a non-negotiable in order for this best case scenario thing to happen. Second, non-negotiable. Okay, Nebraska needs to finally win close games because we're going to be in close games this year, probably against teams we shouldn't be in close games with. I think Cincinnati's probably going to be a close ball game, right? You need to win that one if it goes down to the wire. Same deal with Michigan State. I think Iowa, obviously, that's going to go down the wire. It always does. So you've got to finally win close games. That's mainly on the coaching staff for making the right decisions, having the right play call, Matt Rule, not burning stupid timeouts in the third quarter, right? But also is dependent on the players making plays when it matters the most. So that's huge. Third thing is Dylan Raiola. He's got to be a top 10 quarterback in America. I've told you guys time and time again, he really determines our potential this year. Like our team is just going to be as good as Dylan Raiola is going to be, right? If Dylan's not a very good player, we're not going to be a very good team. But if Dylan breaks out, the team's going to break out, right? The entire team is dependent on his play because of how this offense is oriented. So if Dylan Raiola breaks out to be a top 10 quarterback, which I think is very possible, I don't know if it's possible for him to be top 5, but if he can become top 10, could very well see Nebraska break out in a big way and have this best case scenario. A couple other things. Dana Holgorsen completely changes this Nebraska offense. It is completely different than what it was under Marcus Satterfield, right? We're explosive. We're converting on 3rd and 4th downs. We have a lot of confidence. Once again, we have great play calling inside the red zone. Dana Holgorsen does a great job. We stay healthy throughout the majority of the year. That's something that obviously we can't really control. We control it a little bit, but not too much. But if the running backs can stay healthy, which is the main thing I'm concerned about, if the trenches can stay healthy, and obviously Dylan Raiola, that's huge. And then last but not least, honestly, I think Emmett Johnson's a huge X factor on this team. Okay, I need Emmett Johnson to be a 1,000-yard rusher, frankly, because of how bad this running back depth is. He needs to step up for the lack of talent there. Okay, and if Emmett Johnson's just a medium-level running back, which I kind of think he is right now, we're not going to be a great rushing attack. We're not going to have an A-plus offense. He's really the X factor because I feel good about the passing attack. I feel good about Dylan potentially taking a step forward. I feel good about these wide receivers, but Emmett Johnson is kind of the thing that's like, okay, he could take it to the next level with his play this year. If he can become a 1,000-yard rusher, man, the sky's the limit for this offense. So all of those things need to happen in order for Nebraska to have this best case scenario. Once again, trenches need to dominate. Close game curse is gone. Dylan Raiola becomes a top 10 quarterback in America. Dana Holgorsen revolves and changes this offense. We're healthy the entire year, and Emmett Johnson breaks out. If all 6 of those things can happen, I think the best case scenario for Nebraska this year is 10-2. 10-2 for the Huskers. Now, what would that look like? I think Nebraska would win every single game on the schedule besides Penn State. And I think they would lose one game they shouldn't. I think they'd actually beat Michigan in this scenario, but they would probably lose a game like in Iowa to end the year, or Minnesota. And the reason why I'm not saying 11-1, I know a lot of people think the ceiling is 11-1. The reason why I'm not there just yet is because I need to see to believe that Nebraska can win all of the games that they should on their schedule. Because every single year when it comes to Nebraska, they'll lose a game they shouldn't. Whether it's, again, a Minnesota, which is a stereotypical Nebraska loss if I've ever seen one. A Michigan State, I could very well see them beat Michigan, have a bye week after that, be kind of hungover after that big win, and then lose to Michigan State at home. So 10-2, in my opinion, is the ceiling that will earn you a college football playoff berth, just barely with that Michigan win. Obviously, you don't really have too many great wins on the schedule. Beating Michigan and USC are your best ones, but I think that'll barely make the college football playoffs. And from there, honestly, I think the ceiling is probably to lose first round. Like, I don't know if we're there yet from a talent perspective to win a game in the college football playoff. Again, we're going to be good this year if everything right happens, right? Well, we could make the college football playoffs. I think 10-2 is a lot more realistic than 5-7. But in my opinion, we're kind of like an Indiana from last year, right? Where Indiana was very good. I just don't know if Indiana was at a point in time where, they're talented enough to win a game in the playoff. I don't know if we're there just yet either, right? That's going to be for year 4. So that's best case scenario. Once again, a lot more doable than probably 5-7. I think 5-7 again, our ceiling or our floor, excuse me. That's probably not going to happen. I could see 10-2 happen if everything goes right. Could very well see it happen. A lot more likely than 5-7, but I need a lot of things to go in your favor. Again, 11-1. I know some people are going to say that's the ceiling. Until I see with my own eyes that Nebraska can win all of the games they should, the Northwesterners, the UCLAs, the USCs of the world, I won't believe it, right? I've got to see with my own eyes before I believe that's going to happen. So for that reason, I'm going to predict one loss against probably an upset team, and then a loss, of course, against Penn State, who I believe is going to be the best team in America. So that, in my opinion, best and worst case scenarios for Nebraska. I know I'm going to get some pushback on probably both of them. I know some people are probably going to say that the ceiling is higher and also the floor is a little bit higher. So I want to hear your thoughts down below. What are you thinking about both of those? I want to hear what you have to say. Hey, if you made this far into the video, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go be great. Go Matt Rule. And I will see you in the next one.